Hello. Tuesday.
We need a word for each day. Triumphant Tuesday, let's call it.
Triumphant Tuesday. Love it. Welcome to Donna and Cheryl TV Live, full of keeping it real, life lessons. And today we are continuing the discussion about boundaries.
Yes.
What are they? How do you get them? When you've got them, how do you keep them?
Yeah.
And we had so many messages yesterday, so we know this is something that is really, really resonating with you guys. So I'd love to know any reflections you've had since yesterday. Sorry, any realizations or aha moments would be great to hear. And today we're going to be moving the discussion really into speaking about boundaries specifically in the work arena. I've got a little sniffly nose, sorry.
Jonah loves a good sniff, don't you? Whenever we're recording videos or anything,
it's driving us mad.
We'll record the videos and stuff when everything's okay, and then there's always a little.
I know. I always remember the first time we hired Lee. Lee Hogan was the amazing guy who did all of the original videos and the original photos that we did together, our first ever photo shoot. And I just I've always got bangles and stuff on as a general rule. And I just remember him like, cut. And he's like, yeah, bangles again. I'm like, I'll take them off. It was not a good day for Lee.
There was a lot of bangles and banging the bangles and sniffing going on, basically.
Jingle jangle.
Yeah.
Jingle jangle. Yeah, it didn't go down well. So
yes. So today we're going to talk about boundaries in the sense of work. Because when we fail to have strong boundaries in place, our work-life balance ain't in balance. It ain't like that. It's like that. Mm-hmm. Because we took a nosedive. Because we don't feel strong enough or able or to have the tools to be able to communicate, like we were talking about yesterday, what you want and what you need, particularly at work, particularly when it's your boss or your boss's boss or your boss's boss's boss or your team. And we were just chatting about the fact that now we're in this situation with COVID, still in this situation. Yes, some people have gone back to work, but a lot of us are still working from home, which has really put more pressure on people, hasn't it? Because you're at home. Like before, when we worked in corporate, Donna, if you wanted to work from home, you were classed as skiving, weren't you? That people thought you were like going home and you were having some kind of holiday and you weren't actually working at home. It was like certain companies I worked in, like you just weren't allowed to work from home. If you did, you had to have a special reason because people just thought you were just sat messing around.
Now we're all because we work in operations, though, was it? So our people and our ops were all there and present. So it wasn't something that, generally speaking, happened a lot. I think growing up in our corporate careers, I think it's wider now. But like you said, now we're working from home. We've never worked so hard, which is interesting. Yeah. So,
but even when we started working from home, running our business, I think our husbands just thought we were just sat with our feet up, each day watching TV, having a little break, doing some work, like just because of I think when
you're at home.
Yeah, just because you're at home that you sat not doing anything. But as we all know, now we're working from home. That is not true. We have never been working longer hours.
But it's actually a really good point because a lot of our readjustment, and I know I had done this a little bit before you, Cheryl, with having my consultant business for a year first. You'll remember this. I went through this whole recalibration with Neil of, I'm at home. So yes, I get to take Caleb to school, but when I come back, I'm not then doing washing and doing last night's dishes and doing all that stuff. Hey, Heather, this is me working from home. So we do everything on a night time like we would have done if I was then going into the office the next day, because there seemed to be the expectation, like you said, because I was home, I could pick up extra duties. And actually I was working really, really hard on my consultant business through the day. So that wasn't an option. Now, granted, it can look a bit strange now when you come into the house, especially with me and Cheryl, because we're often listening to stuff or reading, but that's our job. Like learning and growth is a really big, important part of our job, isn't it? So you might walk in and it might look like we're having fun, which we are because we love our job, but we're still working. And I think for our husbands, that was a little bit of an adjustment to get heads around what that looked like with our business now. So yeah, that was interesting.
We're not just expected to do the housework and wash the dishes and put the clothes washing in and everything because we are working.
No.
And Graham's on furlough this week, and he's like, I'll be sat in the living room with my laptop, and he's just like wanting to talk, and I'm like I'm busy, like concentrating, like I'm working. Just because I'm sat here in the living room doesn't mean I can just talk every 2 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. It's true, isn't it? And I've had to readjust with Caleb being home because he'll come in for cuddles, which I really want to do because I'm never going to get this opportunity again of Caleb being at home with 7-year-old and being able to have cuddles in the middle of a school day or a working day. But it's still about me finding that balance. So I have to say to him, okay, Mummy's really busy, the door's closed. So for the next hour, I'm with the clients, so you can't just come in. Or then I'll have open door, which means you can come in and cuddles are acceptable at any time.
Yeah.
So just a case of, again, identifying the boundaries within the family unit of what that looks like. And thankfully, through years and years and years and years and years of being a pleaser, I'm actually pretty good at boundaries these days when I work with the family. And it's just an adjustment. And even for our mums and stuff, wasn't it? It was like, oh, good, you've got your own business. But we can't just pop up in the middle of the day, or like we plan it in, don't we? If we're going to pop out or whatever, we plan that in, we block the time in, because generally speaking, we're busy for huge chunks of the day. So we plan around shopping trips and family, or if Cheryl and I need to go and visit something, or that's all planned in, and we're very, very firm with those boundaries.
Absolutely. So for those of you who are watching, how does this resonate? Are you finding some of the same not challenges, but things that you're having to work through when you're working from home? And then the other aspect we wanted to talk to you about is within work, when you're like we were just saying, weren't we, like because your leaders have probably got a team now who are spread out in their own homes, like there's a much higher focus on making, and it's wellness week as well, so making sure that the workforce is well when they're working from home. So your company may have like upped the ante a bit on making sure that everybody's okay when they're at home. So things like having breakfast meetings, we've heard things about people doing like exercise things in the morning, or all getting on the phone and just checking in and making sure everyone's okay, which is great because the company are wanting to make sure you're well. However, it's then extending your day even further. Maybe that would have been your drive where you got time on your own in the car and did your thinking. And now you're like on the phone from 8 o'clock in the morning, having a breakfast meeting with work, and then still having to work till 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night because they want to make sure you're okay. But then you don't want to say, no, that's my time.
Yeah,
which is difficult.
Absolutely. And it's twofold, isn't it? Because one is you might be the leader who's doing your very best to make your team feel involved, to make your team feel that you can, that you're approachable, to make your people feel like you are there for them, which sometimes what we do is actually we jeopardize our own boundaries and kind of, it's ring me anytime, tell me anytime you need to chat. And equally, as the person who's on the other end of that, if you're putting lots of extra touch points in, morning, night, breakfast, whatever, they might feel that that's encroaching, but they understand that it's done out of good intent. So there's always this balancing act. And it's really important, I think, as leaders, and by leaders I mean you're a leader with your family, you're a leader in work, you're a leader with your friends, it's about really making sure that you're clear on what people want and what they need, and not just giving them what you think you need or what you think you would want in that same situation, which is often what we do. We often go out, give people what we think they want, deliver to them the service we think they expect, and then get really, really annoyed when they're not grateful for it, when actually they didn't ask for it in the first place. And again, it's that managing those expectations. So that's a really important point. And a lot of our clients are leaders of businesses. They have their own business, or they're leaders within corporate or industry, and their own mental health, their well-being, their feeling good can suffer because of their constantly stretching themselves and putting themselves out there for everybody else. And it can be unsolicited, and it can be too much because we really go to that extreme of wanting people to feel cared for. And it's about us finding that balance for ourselves and for the guys that we are responsible for or part of a team of.
Like you say, because you don't know if that's what they need. We just make assumptions, don't we, with positive intention. Joe's just saying, and Joe's an entrepreneur and has her own business and has 2 kids and a dog and a husband and works from home. It's just saying it's difficult to be pulled into different directions. So, and this is where it is around having, it's like having your absolute no-nos with your boundaries of this is, no, I'm going to carve this time out, and then having the conversation. But we build up this story in our own minds about what the other people or other person might say. If we then say, actually, can I give that breakfast meeting a miss? Or actually, I'd really like to go to the gym tonight, or not the gym, but you know what I'm saying, going for a walk or whatever it is. We build up this idea in our head. If we say that, we might stand out. The rest of the team might not be saying that. Our boss might not be very happy. Our client might not be happy. Like, we'll build up this story, don't we, in our head of what the response may be. So then we don't communicate it. We don't even have the conversation.
Yeah, we don't want them to think that we're ungrateful. So we say yes, when actually we say yes, what we really meant was no. And we go away and we're kind of seething about it. And we're going to cover the whole saying no as a separate session one day, because it just, people have such an issue with saying no to things. And yeah, I know, like, I think at the moment, to Joe's point, when you're being pulled, like now, at first it was great being at home and it was wonderful. But I think for many people, the cracks are really starting to show. You know, some companies are saying you could be working home for the rest of the year. For us, we don't know how long it is till we're going to be happily confined in HQ together with the boys at work. And it could well be that Caleb hasn't gone back to school by the time that happens. So it's really about, like we said yesterday, to repeat that message, being clear as well on what you want and what you need for it to function. I always have the image. Do you remember on Sex and the City, which is my font of all truth, when Carrie's with Aidan and he comes home and he starts, hey, what Pop-Tart, what you been doing, where you been, who you seen, all the rest of it. And she like closes those lovely net curtains around her bedroom because she's only got like a one-room studio apartment thing. And she's like, for half an hour when I come in, like, it's like I'm not here, because that's her downtime. It's the time that some of us used to have in the car driving home from work, or the walk we would have coming home from work, or the commute where we could kind of file everything away. And now we're all in the house and we're all together all of the time. And it's a lot, isn't it? And I think tempers are fraying. I know in our house we've been a little bit nitpicky and a little bit, and it's because it's months and months and months that it goes on. And yes, we're getting used to it, but equally it creates that bit of a melting pot where some of the flaws and some of the things that we're not happy with can start to bubble up and get bigger.
Yeah. And Joe's just saying, struggle with feelings of guilt. I should be doing X. Yeah, who said you should? But in reality, I've not asked. Yeah, and that's good that you recognise that. You've not actually asked, and you don't know what their expectations are, and they don't know what yours are. So, like Donna said yesterday, it's about being clear and asking for what you want. And I think from a work perspective, like when Donna and I were leaders in corporate, and we took this approach, we were very good at delegating. And when you have a boss, so you might be in a position where your boss delegates lots of work to you. And from a leader's point of view, if I keep delegating something to a member of my team and the member of the team keeps saying yes and taking that work on, then that's all I'm going by. Yeah. Like, I'm not then a mind reader. I don't then know that they're saying yes, but really they may say no because they're swamped under. Like, that's their responsibility to tell us, actually, do you want us to prioritize these things? I can do this week and that next week, or whatever it is. But like, from the other shoe, if you're feeling like you put on and you keep saying yes and you're drowning, like, that is your responsibility to speak up again with expectations and, you know, go to whoever it is and say, actually, you've asked to do this. Which one would you like us to do? Because they don't know unless you tell them.
You forget what you have to do, what a lot of the time. And if someone says yes, then like you said, Cheryl, then my expectation is that they've got the bandwidth to absorb that. Whereas that member of your team might be going off thinking, I can't believe she expects me to do this as well as that and that. And yet 99% of the time you go to that person and say, brilliant, love to do that. Obviously, I'm still working on this, and then there's also this coming up next week. Yeah. Which one is the priority, and which one, not in a pushy way, not in a way that we're like frustrated that our boss can't, grasp how important we are and how much we've got to do, but just being really clear so that everyone's aligned on the priorities and the deliverables. That's all it is, without having that feeling of resentment. And don't wait till it gets to that feeling of resentment. Like I remember this once when I was in an organization. Caleb was quite small, and I was in the park, and I remember my phone going off. Caleb was only little, and he was on a swing, little enough to hurt himself. And I remember the phone going on a Saturday afternoon and thinking, I have to answer it. And I answered it. And I remember like thinking, Caleb would be okay, as I like backed off a little bit because the kids were screaming, because I'm in a park on a Saturday afternoon. And like Caleb was shouting. I remember saying, shh, 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 I'm on the phone. He's 2. And in that moment, you're looking at yourself thinking, what are you doing? It's a Saturday afternoon. You're in a park shushing the kids. It's their park. Caleb's on a swing. He could fall off because you've deemed it more important, rather than seeing your boss, messaging him saying, I can't answer you now, I'm at the park with my child. I've been away for 5 days this week. Like, what did you? But I think this is what happens is when you get really overwhelmed with it and you feel like when you have no boundaries and you're not clear on the when I'm working and when I'm not working within yourself, you can make some poor choices. And there was no good me being angry at my boss. He rang, it was my decision to answer. But then after that, I was very clear with him. I won't be picking up the phone on a Saturday. If you need anything, the team are there. Ring that number. If it's urgent, text me and I'll ring you when I can. But my initial instinct was to be mad at him, and then I was like, no, this is all, everything is of your making. Absolutely. So it was my accountability to reassess that.
And I think that's the life lesson for today, isn't it? It's around starting to get great at managing expectations, about taking responsibility for perfectly a perfect example there of responsibility for ourselves, and the lack of or the fact that we haven't communicated, like Joe's saying, we haven't said what our expectations are. We don't know what theirs is. So then we can just stay in a world of just making up stories about what the response may be, or we can start to communicate that in an okay way. And honestly, you will be surprised at the response you get. Like when you told your boss that the team's there, you're going to go to the park on a Saturday, and if it's urgent, text and I'll ring you back. What did he go mad? Did he sack you? Was that the end of the world?
No. And I think what we have to remember is there's a payoff with this stuff, isn't it? The payoff is often that we think that we're so important, or it fuels our thing of like being needed, like we all like to be needed. And once you realize that actually the payoff for that is not as important as the consequence of somebody hurting themselves, or you getting ill, or you wanting to leave your job because you're so sick and tired of not having a weekend to yourself, the payoff starts to pale in comparison.
Yeah, absolutely. So we want you to start to have the conversations, manage expectations, give it a go. You will be pleasantly surprised at the response that you get when you just start to say, actually, I can do this tomorrow and that next week. Which one would you like? Or actually, I'm good this weekend. I'm going to do something else, or whatever it is in your case. You will be pleasantly surprised at the response you get, which will then build your confidence. So then you start to do it more and more. But you have to start somewhere.
And we've had some amazing examples of clients in our Real You program putting this kind of thinking into practice and having life-changing results in terms of how the relationship with their bosses and the relationship with their families and themselves. This stuff works. It's just about being brave enough. It's uncomfortable the first time you do it because you're not used to doing it, but it's there for you to change, and the accountability is on you to start implementing some of these conversations so that you can create the boundaries that will give you happy, healthy relationships.
Absolutely.
I was just saying before we go, Cheryl, sorry, that's the important piece. Feeling valued or needed isn't a better payoff than what you've sacrificed by not having the boundary. Exactly. Yeah. And it astounds me how often we're willing to make other people outside of our home, outside of the people that we love, happy, rather than protecting our boundaries and making ourselves and the people that we love happy. And yet we make those decisions every day. So yeah, we'll leave it on that one, Heather. Thank you.
Amazing. And tomorrow we're going to be talking about relationship boundaries, families and friends. So that will be exciting. Make sure you tune in for that episode. Episode? Do we have episode?
This is an episode. Thank you so much, guys. Have an amazing boundary full day, and we will see you tomorrow on the Peak of the Weekday.
Bye.
Bye for now.
Keep it real.